Hello and welcome back to my channel. As you can tell from the title, this is going to be a reading vlog for Elsie Silver's Chestnut Springs series. I do have the first two books already. When I'm filming this, currently, like this exact clip, it is February 2nd. So the third one is not out yet, but I'm planning to read these in time to sort of line up with the third book's release so that I can obviously include it in this vlog. So I actually got these two, Powerless and Heartless, for Christmas, and I sort of asked for them not really knowing anything about them. I had seen the covers around, I had heard people saying some good things, I knew they were small town romances, and that's literally it. Like, I didn't even read the synopsises before I put these on my Christmas list because I was like, you know what, I love small towns, and so why wouldn't I love these? I also did like zero research in Elsie Silver, and I had no idea she was Canadian, which is really cool because I'm Canadian too. So that was pretty much how I became introduced to these books, was the internet, obviously, and got these both for Christmas. Super excited about that. And I actually obviously have started Flawless, as you can tell by my bookmark. I'm about 200 pages, yeah, just past the 200 page mark. I'm on chapter 17, and I am obsessed with this book. Like, honestly, I cannot remember the last book that I loved as much as I'm loving this. And I'm kind of terrified because the last couple books I've read, I will say, like, I find my attention span sort of dies off at the 60% mark. And so I'm really hoping that doesn't happen with this because right now I'm at, like, probably just before the 50% mark because it's about 460 pages, I think, 430. So I'm getting close to the 50% mark, so I'm kind of scared that I'm gonna, like, lose my interest in it. But so far, like, I don't think that's going to happen because I can honestly say every single scene in this book has been good. Like, there hasn't been a single, like, filler moment. This book follows Summer and Rhett. Rhett is a professional bull rider, and Summer is the daughter of his agent. And Rhett kind of has some, like, PR issues that are causing him to lose sponsorships, and his agent basically tells him, you know, we need to keep you on the straight and narrow to make sure that you don't keep losing sponsorships and that you can, like, keep the ones that are really important to you so that you can, like, fund your family farm, basically. And he's like, to do that, I'm sending you my daughter. And she's gonna, like, follow you around everywhere kind of thing. And make sure that you're not getting in trouble and you're, like, just behaving, basically. And I didn't realize, like, I read the back of this book before I started it. I didn't realize she was literally going to be his, like, shadow. I kind of was expecting her to just, like, go to events with him, but she's, like, literally living on his family ranch. And I just, like, this book has surprised me, honestly. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as it is. It also is, like, kind of chunky, which, like, you know me, I get really intimidated by larger books. But I find the chapter length in this book is, like, perfect. Like, it's the perfect length where you're constantly going, okay, like, I'll just read one more, and it doesn't take you, like, 45 minutes to read one more. And I find when chapters are shorter like this, I tend to read faster because I am more likely to say, oh, I'll just read one more, and I can actually get through one more. But I am loving this, like I said. Right now, like, this is well on its way to being a 5-star read. One of my favorite things in romance books is when there's a strong sort of family aspect. It doesn't have to be, like, blood family, even if it's, like, a found family kind of thing, but I love that, like, sense of community that comes with small town romances, and this one really has it. Like, I think in the first 50 pages, you're already introduced to Rhett's two brothers, his nephew, his sister, his dad. Like, you meet his whole family on this ranch, and obviously it takes place on a ranch, so, like, that's really cool. And it's just, like, so different than a lot of the other small town books I've read. Like, I've read a lot of small town books, but I find this one is just really something different, which I can see why it's so hyped now, which, like, was another thing that was concerning me, is I tend to not like the books that are hyped on TikTok. So this was kind of scaring me that because so many people were loving it, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna hate it. But I actually, like I said, I am obsessed with this. It has the really strong family vibes. It's definitely, like, a slow burn. And I think that the fact that he's a bull rider is just so interesting. Like, I've never read a book like that, and I like books that sort of dive deep into a lifestyle that I obviously don't live or really have seen anybody live. I also think it's kind of cool that this book takes place in Canada because I find a lot of Canadian authors don't do that. They write books set other places, which is fine, but I just think it's cool to actually have a Canadian author writing books set in Canada. And so, like I said, I'm just really, really loving this. I love the bull riding aspect. I love all the little moments between them have just been so good. Like, if you are even remotely considering picking this up, I highly recommend that you do, because even this far in, like I said, unless something really terrible happens, I can't see how this would not be a 5-star read for me. Like, I'm just obsessed with this. I'm constantly thinking about it. Every time I put it down, I'm like, man, I wish I was reading that book. And I just really am loving it. So what I'm going to do is, for this one, obviously, like, this is sort of like my halfway update. I'll update you when I finish it and when I am starting Heartless, and then I'll update you halfway through this one and again at the end, and then I'll do the same for Powerless. So that is where we're at right now. So I will see you in about 230 pages when I finish this book. So it is now February 4th. I finished Flawless last night. I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I actually had a thought reading this book that I have never ever had before when reading a book, and I remember it. I was on page 168, so it was actually before I filmed the first part of this video, and I was actually thinking, like, I can't wait to read this book again. And I have never ever thought that while reading a book, and I also am not one to really reread books all too often, so the fact that I was even thinking that while reading this was kind of insane. I was really worried that something was going to happen in the second half of this book that was going to make me hate it, like that, I don't know, he was going to do something stupid or she was going to do something stupid, but I actually felt like everything that happened in this was like justified and made sense and was just like a really good book, honestly. Like, I don't know, I was not expecting to like this as much as I did. Honestly, like, if I had not already purchased all of Elsie Silver's backlist, I think I would have ordered them while I was reading this. Like, it was that good that I literally want to read everything that she's ever written. So I absolutely loved this. There were just so many cute moments in this, and the story was like one of those ones that you really just like kind of fall into. Like, you feel like you're there, you feel like you know them, like you actually met these people, and I feel like that to me is a sign of a really good book, and this doesn't happen all too often, and so I'm really excited that I really love this one. I definitely will read anything that Elsie Silver writes from now on. I have her whole Gold Rush Ranch series. I'm definitely going to read that one as well, because I'm just like really excited to read more from her. I really, really, really loved this, obviously. I feel like there were so many good like sort of jealousy moments in this, and just like the two of them together. I loved how well she fit in with his family, and like how she just like shows up on the ranch one day and it's like she was always there. Like, she just fits in with them so well. And like the banter with the brothers and all of that. And I love Jasper. I know the third book is his book, so I'm so excited to see his story, because he is a hockey player in the small town, which I feel like is not super common, like to have a small town and hockey like crossover book. So I'm so excited for his book. And so, like I said, really, really love this. Gave it 5 stars. Am absolutely obsessed with Elsie Silver. Like, 100% would read anything she writes. And so last night I did end up, once I finished that, I did end up picking up Heartless right away, because I saw a Instagram story on Elsie Silver's Instagram that was like just like a little sort of line from this book, or like a little moment that happens, and it just like really had me dying to pick this book up. So I picked it up last night. This one follows Cade, who is kind of like the grumpy brother of the family. He's the oldest brother. He's the one that kind of had to take care of the younger siblings when their mom died. So he's super grumpy and just kind of keeps to himself. He has a son who is 5 in this book, and this book is following him trying to find a nanny for his son, and he's kind of having issues with all of these nannies that are showing up are interested in him, like romantically, and he's like, I don't want anyone that's going to fall in love with me. I just want someone to come watch my kid. And so Summer, the girl from the first book, ends up suggesting her best friend Willa, who comes out, and they sort of get off to an interesting first meeting. But I only read the first 2 chapters of this last night because it was like really late, but I'm so excited to get into this. Like I said, he's super grumpy, single dad, and she is going to be the nanny, and she's also moving in with him, and I loved that aspect of the first book, and so I'm really excited to see how that plays out in this one as well. Overall, so far, I'm just really, really enjoying these books. Like I said, super excited for Powerless to come out, because I think that one may actually be my favorite, even though I just have a feeling these are all going to be 5-star reads for me. But I'm excited to get to this one. Like I said, I will update at the 50% mark, which will probably be tomorrow. To be honest, I'll probably get through 200 pages of this today. But I am excited to read this one. I'm also kind of curious because it shows like the guitar on the cover, and that's like the page sort of like lining too is a guitar, and I don't think they mentioned him playing the guitar or her playing the guitar. So I'm sort of curious when that's going to come up, or if that's even like a reference to the story. Maybe it's not, I don't know. But I'm kind of curious about that because I do really, really love this cover. This one has definitely grown on me when I bought these. This one 100% was my favorite. I thought it was so pretty, and I still think it's pretty. But this one, I just didn't love the skull, but I feel like it's really grown on me because I love the sort of green color that's like along the bottom here. I think that's so pretty with the little flowers. I just love these books. Like, I'm literally obsessed. So anyway, I am gonna go read this one and I will update you at the 50% mark. So it is now the next day. It is February 5th today, and I actually read a ton more of this than I was expecting to yesterday. I know I said yesterday I was gonna read 200 pages yesterday, but I wasn't really thinking when I said that. I was thinking I would read 100 pages yesterday and then 100 pages today and then film the update, but I actually did end up reading 200 pages yesterday. I'm on chapter 18 now. I'm on like page 230 and really, really loving this one as well. Honestly, I've heard a lot of people say that this one is their favorite of the two, but I can't say that I'm really loving this any more than the first one or any less. I feel like I just really like them both for different reasons. I mean, obviously I haven't finished this one, so maybe by the end I will have a favorite, but right now I'm just really, really enjoying these books. I think one of the big things is these are kind of reminding me of Mariana Zapata books, because I know Mariana Zapata is known for like the slow burn and like just like showing those everyday little sort of mundane things that people do, but like they're falling in love while they're doing them. And I feel like these books are definitely like that. Like there's no crazy over dramatic plot line going on. Like it's literally just these people living their everyday lives in their houses, you know, on this ranch, you know, going to work, doing things, going to kids' birthday parties, like all the normal like everyday life things. And you're just kind of seeing them fall in love through that. And I think that those are the best stories. I think those are the ones where you feel like you know them the most, because you see like the little moments of them cooking dinner together, or, you know, just hanging out in their backyard kind of thing. Like you definitely get to see a lot more of their sort of like personal life, I guess, than what you would see in a book with like a crazy plot line going on. I have sort of figured out where the guitar comes in. I know I mentioned that earlier. I was kind of wondering about that. Yeah, I mean, I love the little boy in this. There's definitely been like some really funny moments with him involved, and he's just really, really cute. And I love the sort of dynamic with the like super grumpy dad and this kid that's just like full of life and energy and jokes and things. I think it's a really good sort of like balance with the two of them. I kind of wonder, like, is the third book, do we know, is that the last book? I hope it's not. But I'm like, do we know how many books are coming out? Because I would read literally like 10 of these if she wrote them. But I don't know if she's doing that. So like, let me know in the comments if you know like what the situation is with that, because I have no clue. It'll be like, these are the first books I've ever read from her, so I feel like I don't know a ton about her sort of like plan with her books or her series or anything. But I really hope that we get like all three brothers get a book. And since the next book isn't a brother, I'm hoping that means there's at least one more after that one. I don't know. Like I said, let me know if you know. I don't know. I'm going to finish reading this book and then I will update you. So it is now February 8th and I just finished Heartless like literally probably half an hour ago. I literally just woke up and all I had left was the epilogue and like the bonus epilogue. I'm sorry if the camera's a little bit shaky. I literally have you sitting on a stack of books on top of a stack of pillows, which obviously is not like the most like sturdy thing ever, but taking the tripod out just to film this one clip seemed a bit excessive. But loved this. 5 stars, 100%. I am one of those people that like when I give a book 5 stars, it's solely based on like vibes. I really love books where I feel like I knew the characters or like I actually spent time with them. Like they're very real people to me. And I feel like this series really does that, where I actually feel like I've been to this ranch and, you know, like I've hung out with these people. Like that to me is the sign of a 5-star book. Whereas like there are a lot of books that I read that like I can't even remember the characters' names at the end because I just like didn't really care. And these books are not like that. I have really been loving these. I will say in Flawless, there was reference to the younger sister. So like Flawless and Heartless, if you don't know, like follow brothers. The two guys in the books are brothers. And in the first book, there was a mention of a younger sister, Violet, who was already in a relationship. And so I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Like, she's obviously not going to get a book because she is already with someone. And I kind of thought a little bit when I read that I was like, oh, maybe she was in the other series that Elsie Silver wrote, because there is another series called the Gold Rush Ranch series, which I do like. I have the books for. they have like new covers for them now that look like this, and I really, really love them, so I bought them. But I didn't even like think to look up to see if like one was a spin-off of another. I literally just like got all her books and just went for it. But I think she does have a book in that series, and so if you're wanting to read these in like the correct order, then I think you're supposed to read that series first, because I kind of was picking up that maybe she had a book because they mentioned that she's a jockey, and I know I've heard that like some of the characters in that series are jockeys, so that's kind of what made me go, okay, maybe she did have a book and I just like didn't read it. And so that is, I think, what happened. I heard someone talking about one of those books saying that their favorite was Violet's book, so I think that obviously that's probably the same Violet, because I don't know why she would have two Violets, but I didn't know that going in, so like that's just like a fun little fact for you if you haven't read any of these books and you're thinking about it. I will say I don't feel like I'm missing anything having not read that. I am going to read those obviously eventually, but I don't feel like these were hard to understand or anything because I didn't read that series first. And obviously, like, I still gave these both 5 stars, still love them without having read that. I will say, I know I've mentioned a couple times how excited I am for Powerless, but honestly, I was a little bit, like, hesitant with that book because these two, like, Heartless and Flawless, have both been sort of like an enemies to lovers kind of vibe. Like, I wouldn't say full enemies because they don't actively hate each other. I would say out of the pair, there's one that doesn't like the other in both of these books. And because the third one is best friends to lovers, I was kind of wondering if it was going to have like the sort of same dynamic that I've been liking in these books, because it's going to be a little bit different in that regard where they're both already friends, obviously. And I've like totally, like, I'm not worried anymore. I've totally changed my mind about that because Sloane, who is the main girl in the third book, Powerless, is introduced in this book. I don't think we see her at all in the first book, but we do see her twice, I think, in this book. She's mentioned once where they're just sort of talking about her, and then she's actually there at one point. But when they're just talking about her at the beginning, well, it's not like at the beginning, but when they first mention her, I got so excited for her book because of the way that the two brothers from these books are talking about her. And just kind of, she's their cousin, which I didn't realize, like the two brothers in these books, she is their cousin and the guy is their like best friend that sort of grew up with them. And I don't want to say like what they actually say, but it just set it up really well, I think, where I'm really, really excited to see that and how it plays out. And I do think it's going to be a little bit more complicated than just like best friends to lovers. And obviously, like, something happens at the end of this one that really set up that book nicely, I think, and I'm just like, I'm dying to get my hands on that book. Like, it literally comes out the day after tomorrow, but I'm hoping I can actually get it on the 10th because we don't have pre-orders in Canada, which is kind of strange. I know Elsie Silver has actually posted about this herself, saying that it's just not possible in Canada to do that, which I guess makes sense because I've never seen an indie author do it, but we just don't have pre-orders for indie books. We have to wait till the day of and then buy it and kind of hope that like it doesn't sell out that day, or, you know, then Amazon shipping dates start getting like way later out because so many people have ordered it. But yeah, overall, I really, really love this. I thought Luke was super, super adorable. There are so many funny moments in this one. I think the dynamic with Luke being this, like, you know, little kid with all this energy and like just saying all these random things that came to his head, and Cade being so grumpy and like reserved, was just a really, really good balance. They really sort of played off each other well, I think. And Harvey, their dad, like the two brothers' dad, is like so funny. There's a line towards the end of this book, like a conversation that keeps coming up, that was so funny, and I really loved that. And I just really, really loved this book. So I will see you hopefully with a copy of Powerless in my hands soon. If not, I'll probably have to read it on Kindle Unlimited, but hopefully I can get a physical copy. So I will see you on the 10th. Hello, so I am back now. It is now February 12th. I know I said I was going to be back on the 10th, and I did actually film a clip on the 10th, but I wasn't super happy with it. So we're just going to pretend that that didn't happen. But I did end up getting my copy of Powerless on release day, which was pretty exciting because it actually came up on Amazon the night before, and they were telling me it wasn't going to be delivered till Saturday the 11th, which is the day after release. So I was kind of just like, okay, whatever, like, I'll just wait an extra day. But it did end up showing up on Friday, so that was really exciting. So I have had it since then. I have obviously been reading it. I almost read the entire book yesterday, but I actually had to like stop myself because I knew I needed to film this like halfway clip, and I'm definitely like past the halfway point. I think I'm at page 311. I'm at the start of chapter 25 right now. I knew I was gonna love this, and I definitely am. Jasper, 100%. I knew he was just going to be like my favorite. This book literally is everything that I love, like all of my favorites in one. It's got like the hockey player, the cowboy, best friends to lovers, small town, like literally everything about this is like it was written for me, like with me in mind, you know, like it's all my favorite things in one book. And so I knew I was going to be obsessed with this. I have been absolutely loving it. It is a big book though. I will say this one is 500 pages. I'm also really excited because Elsie Silver has announced that the next book, that like there is going to be a next book, is called Reckless, and it's coming out in June, I believe. And she said not to read the synopsis of that one if you haven't finished this book. So I'm actually so glad I saw that on her Instagram, like where she said not to read it, because I was literally just about to read it. But I do know that it is Theo's book. And I don't think that's like a spoiler because Theo has not been mentioned once in this book. And I feel like he's more like Rhett's friend from the first book. So I don't see him really coming up. I will say in this book, I noticed last night in particular, the part that I got to, I know I mentioned that the Gold Rush Ranch books technically come before this series and I hadn't read those books, but I didn't really feel like I was missing anything. I will say all of the characters, I'm pretty sure, from those books show up in this book. And not that I like feel left out or anything, but there was definitely a moment where I was like, oh man, I wish I had read those books before I got to this one. So this one definitely has a little bit more of those characters showing up. And so that's just like something to know if you are, you know, thinking about reading those books. I would definitely read them first. You don't have to, like I said, like it's totally fine if you don't. But I think if you want to really appreciate like their cameos in these books, then obviously like reading those ones first helps with that. But regardless of that, I have been loving this book. Harvey is still super, super funny. I love him. I don't want to say like a lot about it because it is like the third book, but I feel like a lot of people have read the first two already that are probably watching this. But this one is Jasper and Sloane's story. Jasper is the sort of like closed off like hockey player that hangs out with this family. And then he's kind of like a brother to the guys in the first books. He even refers to them as his brothers. And then Sloane is their cousin, who I believe is like 5 years younger than Jasper. And because of that, things have just never really lined up. Like, she's always had a crush on him, and they sort of said, like, oh, it's just a childhood thing. Like, don't worry about it. Then they both sort of grew up and, like, went their separate ways. And now they are back together on the ranch and also on, like, this, like, road trip together. And it actually mentions the road trip on the back of the book. I did not read the back of the book at all. I just literally got it and started reading it immediately. And I'm kind of glad I did that because I generally, like, don't like the road trip thing in books. I don't know why, but I feel like this one I have been, like, 100% fine with. This one is on its way to being a 5-star read as well. Like, obsessed with it. I'm gonna be so sad when this is done. Honestly, I'm excited that Reckless is coming out because I'm gonna need it and I'm gonna be dying waiting. If you have any like other small town romance recs, like leave them below. Like obviously I still have the Gold Rush Ranch books and I still have to read Jasper Vale too, but I'm just like, after this I literally just want to read about cowboys. So if you have any cowboy romance recs, leave them down below and I will definitely read them. But really, really loving this so far. I was worried with this book with the length of it and the sort of dynamic between them that we were going to get a ton of flashbacks, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. But I will say, like, 300 pages in, I think we've only got, like, maybe 3 flashbacks. And I think they've all been good. They've all had a point to them. Like, there's been a reason why we've seen those flashbacks. Sometimes I feel like I just don't love when we flash back to, like, random moments. But all of the moments that we flash back to in this have been for a reason or to make you love them even more or, like, whatever. Like, it's all been very sort of, like, justified, I guess. I know I say that a lot about this book, but I really do feel like this book is very intentional. And all of Elsie's books are very intentional with what she puts in them. And I really have been vibing with that. Like I said, love her writing. I literally will read anything she writes from now. And she honestly just seems like the nicest person on the planet too. Like she posted, I was watching her Instagram stories on the release day of this book. And she was like literally in tears, like just like thanking everyone. And I was like, girl, you deserve it. Like honestly. And I love that she was like in her 30s when she found like the thing she was meant to do sort of, because I feel like I've sort of like been in that boat where like I went to university but like am I using my degree or like am I like gonna do this or like whatever. And so it's like kind of nice to hear about people that figured out what they were gonna do like a little bit later in life than just like knowing at 16 what they were gonna do. And so I really like that about her, and definitely like 100% a new auto-buy author for me. Like I don't even have to read the synopsis of any of her future books. I will be ordering them. And so I'm gonna go finish reading this, and then I will come back for my last update of the vlog. So it is now February 15th. I have you balanced on a bunch of pillows and books again, so I'm going to try not to move around, so hopefully it doesn't bounce around as much. But I just finished Powerless last night. I loved this. I knew I was gonna love Jasper, like, from this first book, honestly, and gave this 5 stars. Completely obsessed. Like I said, this book for me, like, really just had everything. I know I mentioned previously that these books kind of remind me of Mariana Zapata's books because there's no, like, really dramatic sort of plot line to them. They're very much just sort of like everyday life kind of moments. And I really, really did love that about this series. I feel like I mentioned this in my Goodreads review of this book. I love books where I love the main couple and their romance, but, like, for me, what really sells a, like, great romance above just, like, a good romance is when I fall in love with, like, the setting and the side characters and, like, the whole sort of community surrounding the story. And I'm sorry, the sun just, like, disappeared. But, like, my favorite book of all time, arguably, is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. And one of the things I love about that book is just, like, you feel like you've literally been to Alaska with them. Like, you can imagine their house and, like, the wallpaper in their kitchen. Like, it's so detailed in that regard that I feel like it sticks with you. And you remember, you know, their neighbors and the people that were living around them because there's, like, this really small community there. And I feel like these books really reminded me of that, where, like, I feel like I can picture this ranch and all the houses on it in my head, and, like, the different locations are just very real. The people are very real. I'm someone who gets side characters mixed up constantly. When I read books, a lot of times I'll just be like, oh, I don't remember who that is, or, like, why they're important, or, like, anything. But I never had that issue with these books. Like, every time they mention a name, I know exactly who they're talking about. And even in the first book, like, obviously now, you know, I recognize some of the names as being, like, the other couples from the books. But even in the first book, when we were just getting introduced to everyone, I feel like they were so distinct in each individual, like, person's characteristics and their personality that they just stood out as individuals, and I really liked that. I also love Harvey. Harvey is their dad, and, well, he's, like, the dad of the brothers from the first 2 books, and he's kind of like this guy's sort of, like, adopted dad, but, like, not really. And I just love him. He's so funny. He really has, like, a lot of good moments in this book and the previous book. Really, really loved his, like, sense of humor and, like, the jokes he would crack and stuff. But overall, really, really, really love this series. I think this actually may be my favorite new series of all time. Like, I can't think of another series that I actually love more than I loved these books, because I just, like, genuinely had such a good time with these. I have been, like, so deep in my, like, cowboy, like, country era, though, now. I am obsessed. You can see, like, the balloons behind me, I should probably acknowledge. Those are from my business, but, like, they're, like, cow print, and I thought they were cute because they're, like, cowboy balloons. But, like, I just thought that was cute, and, like, I've been obsessed with, like, the whole, like, small town vibes for so, so long. And I feel like these books just do it so well, and the fact that they're, like, set in Canada is just something that I feel like a lot of authors don't do. I was also thinking about this book and sort of, again, comparing it to The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker, which, like I said, is my favorite book of all time. And I was thinking the other thing that I think makes these books so unique is, like, obviously this guy's a hockey player, so, like, that's, you know, been done before. It's not, like, the most original job. But I think the guy in the first book, Rhett, being a bull rider, was, like, a very unique job. Like, I've never read another book about a bull rider before, and I feel like that is another thing that, like, drew me in. Was with The Simple Wild, he's a bush pilot. I've never read, even to this day, another book about a bush pilot, and so I liked that it was something different and unique, and you sort of really get to, like, dive into the lifestyle that surrounds that. I really love that aspect as well. The romance is good. The, you know, setting is very, like, concrete. It's very easy to imagine. I just really, really love Elsie's writing. I know I mentioned earlier that she has announced that the next book in the series will come out this summer. It is called Reckless, and I know I mentioned that it is Theo's book, but at the end of this book, we kind of find out who the female sort of love interest is going to be in that book. And I can already tell that the banter in that book is going to be so good. And I'm so excited for that one, honestly. Like, I was already excited, but now I'm like, I literally cannot wait for that book to come out. Like, I'm going to be obsessed with it. I already know it. And so, yeah, I really love this series. They look so pretty together. I love these covers. I'm curious what color the next one is going to be. I kind of think, like, maybe, like, a yellow could be nice. I don't know. I'm excited though. I can't remember the last time I was this obsessed with the series, and literally like the fact that I can even like tell you all of their names right now is something that I normally can't do with books, because I just like, I read a book and I instantly forget about it. But these have just stuck with me. Like the characters have stuck with me. I feel like I know them. And I just, oh my god, I'm so obsessed with these. I am so excited to read the Gold Rush Ranch series now though, because I still haven't read that one. And I'm really, really excited to have those to read until the summer when Reckless comes out, because that wait is going to kill me. But like, I'm so, so excited for that. And so yeah, really, really loved these. I honestly thought like at the end of this I was going to tell you what my favorite one was, but I'm not sure that I can actually pick one. I literally love them all. Like I sort of look at them as like one big long story, and I just loved the whole thing. And I can't even, I think if I had to, like if I really had to, it would probably be Heartless. Just because I feel like the tension in that book was so good, and like the whole vibe was different, I feel like, in that book. But I loved all of them equally. Like I said, really obsessed with these. Gave them all 5 stars. Highly, highly recommend these if you're even considering picking them up. Like, definitely do it. They are 100% worth the hype. And so that is everything for this probably very long vlog. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. I'm currently doing new videos every single week, and I will see you next time.